This video includes major story spoilers for Resident Evil Requiem, so turn back now if you're afraid. Victor Gideon, Zeno, Umbrella, Oswald Spencer, the Connections, these are all the bad guys. We understand this, and especially by the time we get to the end of Resident Evil Requiem, we understand that, the Connections really are going to be a pain in Resident Evil 10. However, are we missing the real villain in plain sight? I believe Nathan Dempsey is the real villain. And Nathan Dempsey is, of course, Grace's boss. See, Dempsey is the first person we actually see when we start the game. The cutscene follows him down the corridor of the FBI headquarters as he goes to meet Grace. And at first, and on my first playthrough, I didn't really, none of this was ringing alarm bells for me. I just thought, okay. But when you replay the game knowing what you know about the Connections, things start to look a little bit more eerie. So Dempsey goes to Grace and asks her to investigate a murder at the hotel where her own mother was murdered. And when you say that out loud, it sounds like the stuff of bad guy nightmares. And let's look at this. Firstly, Grace is an analyst, not a field agent, which means that her primary job is to write reports and research cases, put together reports, and do all of the grunt work so that field agents like Leon can go and kick Ouroboros heads off. But it's clear from Grace's nervous demeanor when we first meet her that she's just not the kind of person who needs to be getting involved in field work. That's more of Leon Kennedy's remit. When the camera zooms out in this cutscene, we understand that there's an office full of FBI agents that Nathan Dempsey could ask to do this job. So why has he picked Grace? He goes to her specifically, even knowing the horrific events she endured in that hotel years and years prior with her mother. And another really strange thing is that when Dempsey comes and first greets Grace to, ask her to come to his office, she's looking at newspaper reports of the US's withdrawal from the bioweapons treaty, and she's also researching the Raccoon City incident, and she's really getting close to actually, by the end of the game, what we understand is what's happening with the Connections in Elpis. So isn't it strange that in the middle of her research into that, he pulls her away and says, by the way, you have to go to this hotel. Is that all so that she doesn't do her analyst thing and work out all of the nefarious ongoings, like before she has to go and face off with Gideon and all of the great stuff that happens in the game? Something else that we really need to kind of discuss is that he doesn't even check in with Grace at all throughout the game. Now, contrast that with Leon and Sherry, who basically talk all the time because, he's a field agent and he's out in the field. Why is Dempsey not calling Grace? I mean, she's not even a field agent. He sent her alone to a crime scene where someone's been murdered in a hotel where her mother was murdered without communicating with her, without giving her a partner, without any kind of backup or support whatsoever. It starts to just smell a bit fishy. I mean, add to this that at the end of the game, he doesn't even turn up to greet Grace when she's in the ambulance, recovering from all of the craziness. Grace is hurt. She's in an ambulance. The news crews are there. The wolves are there. The police are there. Leon's there. Maybe the BSAA are there. But it's everyone but him. I mean, he sent her there, and it's not far because we know Leon just drove there, basically. So the field office is not far at all anyway. Why is Nathan Dempsey not there at the end of Resident Evil Requiem? And given what we know about how all of the Resident Evil bad guys work throughout the series, Umbrella, now the Connections, they most likely have an inside man in the FBI. I mean, think about this. Victor doesn't seem surprised at all to see Grace turn up in the hotel at the beginning, and in fact, he's actually waiting for her. Like, this was all predestined to happen for some reason. Further lending evidence to the fact that it was always a setup. The events of the game wouldn't happen if Grace hadn't gone there. And the last point that we really need to talk about is that the last shot of the game is Grace happily talking to Leon at work after the really terrible events of Requiem, and she's smiling and having a good time. And once again, Nathan Dempsey comes along, all stern, and talks to her. He wants her to do something else. So we start the game with this guy, and we end the game with this guy. That's just too much of a coincidence. It's just too much from a cinematography point of view to not be something. We know that the Connections have their hands on Elpis now too. So the question is Nathan Dempsey a setup to be the villain of Resident Evil 10? And if he isn't, is he at least going to be a facilitator for the Connections in Resident Evil 10, who gives them information and sets up Grace and Leon again? He's perfectly placed to do that. So I think that, at worst, Nathan Dempsey is a bad guy. He's working for the Connections, who clearly have infiltrated the US government to a very high level. They assassinated the president in 6, they've pulled out of the bioweapons treaty, and at worst, he's just a really terrible boss that you don't want to work for. I mean, if this guy is innocent, like, somebody arrest him. He's terrible. He's sent Grace alone to a hotel. But frankly, my theory is that he is in some way facilitating the Connections, because he made sure Grace was in that hotel room with Victor Gideon at the beginning of the game, and it all seemed very predestined to happen. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.